welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. My name is Stephen Van Eiderstein, and thanks for joining me again today for the January 15th reading of James Allen's Daily Meditations. I'm looking forward to it, and it's been just such great readings so far. So let's go ahead and get this started. So, January 15th. As the falling rain prepares the earth for the future crops of grain and fruit, so the rains of many sorrows showering upon the heart prepare and mellow it for the coming of that wisdom that perfects the mind and gladdens the heart. As the clouds darken the earth, but to cool and fructify it, so the clouds of grief cast a shadow over the heart to prepare it for nobler things. The hour of sorrow is the hour of reverence. It puts an end to the shallow sneer, the ribald jest, the cruel calumny. It softens the heart with sympathy and enriches the mind with thoughtfulness. Wisdom is mainly recollection of all that was learned by sorrow. Do not think that your sorrow will remain. It will pass away like a cloud. Where self ends, grief passes away. Live sweetly and happily, as becomes the dignity of a true manhood and womanhood. Wow. I guess this reading today speaks to a personal circumstance of my own. January is a hard month for me. I lost a lot of family members in January. So it's interesting that this is the reading for today. Just referring to grief in general. I know it means grief in all sorts, I believe, not just over the grief one might feel for a family member passing, but because anything that ends, there will be grief for, whether it be a job and the people at your job, or whether it be a family member passing away, or someone moving away, or a friendship that ends, or anything like that causes grief. Even grief of circumstance or a material possession, something you might have really enjoyed. Everything can cause grief when it exits your life, whether it's a good reason or a negative reason, or it's expected or unexpected. Grief is the natural progression that occurs in somebody's life. So a lot of trauma is unresolved grief as well. There's a lot of things that come along with this, and grief has been relevant for me over the last few days, just purely because of the loss of very close family members, a father, a brother, a grandfather, all happened in January. So it's on my mind a lot. So I really, this is striking a very personal nerve for me today, just so y'all can maybe get a little bit more insight into who I am. And I like it because it's talking about how grief is transformative. And that really, truly has been my experience with grief, and it continues to be my experience with grief. Grief comes in waves a lot of the time for me. And you walk through it and you keep your head up, like that last, one of those last lines. It says, do not think that your sorrow will remain. It will pass like a cloud. Where self ends, grief passes away. Because I found that to be true. Grief does pass. Grief does pass through you. And I believe grief is intended to form you into the man you're supposed to be, or woman you're supposed to be, the individual that you're supposed to be, or that you are underneath. And where self ends, grief passes away. Because grief a lot of the times is in reference to oneself. When you think about it. When you're thinking about yourself, grief tends to be there because you think about how the person's not going to be there anymore, or how they were supposed to be there, or should have been there, or what they did for you, or how they impacted you. So you're living in that state of self, which isn't necessarily unhealthy, I don't think. Like it said here, Wisdom is mainly the recollection of all that was learned by sorrow. So you're in a time of sadness, thinking about the person that's not going to be there, or the situation, circumstance, whatever it might be, that is exiting your life or changing in your life, and you're going through everything that was brought forward from them, everything you've learned and everything you will learn from those things. And that's a powerful thing. My God, grief is so substantial. And if you can take the perspective that grief is a positive thing because it shows you how important a person was in your life, it's easier to keep your head up and walk through it, has been my experience. And if you leave yourself open to learning the lessons that grief has to bring you, you'll grow exponentially almost, and you'll learn things about yourself and what you value and what life means to you, and friendships and loved ones. The amount you can learn and extrapolate from a season of grief is incredible. I'm going to read this line. It puts an end to the shallow sneer, the ribald jest, the cruel calumny. It softens the heart with sympathy and enriches the mind with thoughtfulness. It certainly does soften the heart, and it certainly does enrich the mind. Because to not be contemplative and not to be reflective and thoughtful about the situation that you're in, or the person that you've lost, like I said, person, situation, whatever it may be, means you're really just running from it. Has been my experience. To not at least look back in appreciation for the individual who they were. You don't have to sit and you don't have to park there by any means. You don't have to sit there in self-reflection only by all accounts, but to acknowledge the loss is so important, and what many run from. I like how it also says that the clouds darken the earth, but to cool and fructify it, so the clouds of grief cast a shadow over the heart to prepare it for nobler things. Such a strong statement. Without the rain clouds, there'd be no rain and no growth. He's saying the same thing about the clouds of grief that are coming into our hearts when we have those losses and those changes. But it does prepare us for the growth and the nobler things and the spiritual path that we can take. So I could go on for probably an hour about this reading, to be honest with you. But I'm going to end it there. Fantastic. Just incredibly time appropriate for me. I'll say that much. And gorgeously worded. That last line I'm going to end with: live sweetly and happily as becomes the dignity of a true manhood and womanhood. Right? You can either be bitter or sweet. You can be sad or happy. The choice is yours. So thanks for joining me again today, and we'll jump on again tomorrow. All right? Until next time, thanks.